Oh, right. Yeah. If you are a senator, please sit in the front 4 rows. Well, online.
$70.
If you are a senator, please sit in the first 4 rows. I'm going to get started. Okay. Just don't transact any.
Okay, I'd like to call this meeting of the Faculty Senate to order. The minutes from the previous meeting have been posted on the Senate website. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Yes. I see. Okay. Do you know the nature of the corrections? Because technically I should be getting consent, just grammatical mistakes. Or maybe talk to the, in the mics so the folks online can hear you as well.
I would agree in the main. There is one correction that has some bearing to the meaning, I have to admit. So I'm sorry for sending the corrections late. I only saw them last night. I couldn't find the video link. I would have double checked using the video link, but I couldn't find it.
What was the nature of the correction, just briefly?
The second, the one correction that is not grammatical is has to do with one of your statements, Mr. Chair, and it has to do with the fact that you reported at the meeting that someone had indicated that the Committee on Professional Track faculty had been asked to report back to the Senate. My search, and you said that you hadn't had that time to check that. So I asked that the minutes reflect that statement.
Okay. Are there any objections to that correction? Okay, hearing none, we'll accept that correction then. Are there any further corrections to the minutes? All right, we'll have, seeing none, we'll approve the corrected minutes and post the corrected minutes once that change is made. Secretary Bickle? Okay, perfect. Unfortunately, the president is traveling today, which I did not find out until after the agenda was sent to everyone, so I apologize for that. I I did express a little bit of displeasure with his chief of staff about not being notified that he would not be at this meeting until after the agenda went out. So hopefully we can work together to avoid that issue in the future. Similarly, the provost is also traveling to a conference today, but in her stead, she has sent Vice Provost Marianne Fitzpatrick to present her report.
Good afternoon, senators and colleagues. The reason Donna is not here is she had to take a delegation to China that Michael was to take to China, but so it was the kind of bumping process, actually. We've been working in our office on a number of academic initiatives to improve the learning environment. This work is done very often in consultation with the faculty committees, the faculty senate committees. I wanted to thank the Committee on Instructional Development, which we call INDEV, for the great work they're doing now, looking at student evaluations, trying to figure out how we can encourage students. As the provost has told you, we have about a 23 or 24% response rate for our student evaluations. Frankly, that seems higher than even what I've seen in the years I've been looking at faculty credentials and other kinds of things. So we're trying to improve this. We're trying to look at, they're doing wonderful work on this, really assessing best practices and also reporting for us on what some difficulties are. So I look forward to their report. There's also a consultation, a special committee you'll hear about today that will look at learning management systems and actually try to assess for us what better learning management systems we might want to find out about. So I really do appreciate the hard work that they're doing, and I know that Donna and Laura Lamecca Anderson do as well. I have some very good news, actually. For the first time in the history of the University of South Carolina, we have cracked 90% in a freshman to sophomore retention rate. As a matter of fact, this is really very, very good. Yeah, this is really huge. Our retention rate is 91%. And as you know, if our retention rate freshman, sophomore is 91%, this bodes very well for fourth, fifth, and sixth year graduation rates. So we pulled together all of the offices and sub-offices in our group. We're really working to try to make sure this is a major focus of our efforts, okay? In the notes, it says this is 15 percentage points higher than the national average. I don't really care about that. It strikes me that we're really now moving into that territory where, you know, successful high-end research universities should be, okay? As part of our commitment to student success, we've begun an initiative on first-gen students, okay? We're starting focus through the part of NASA's First Scholars Network cohort. But this network basically is bringing together higher education leaders from around the country to share data, model innovation, impact for first-gen students. First student who comes from a family that has no experience with the university, doesn't social capital, doesn't really understand a lot of our processes and concerns. And so we think this is really a very good initiative that will also keep helping us improve and serve the students who are coming to us. We're kind of re-energizing the role of faculty principals who are living in communities. The principals are going to become faculty directors. They'll have a new set of expectations, only one of which includes trying to reach out to the students in their learning community if they start to have excessive absences and things. I mean, so we're trying to put high touch in these places where there's actually a connection to the students where they're really trying to make sure they stay on track. As you know, in a lot of our courses, if you start mixing and start not showing up, it bodes very poorly for your work over time. Finally, we also have the Standards and Deviations Committee. The student government is concerned both about they're concerned about the fact that many times they go into final exam, they don't know what they're reading. They don't know what they're speaking is. Student government has told us that we have tremendous anxiety and a lot of depression. So I'm just asking you, colleague to colleague, trying to make sure that you can keep that up to date so they have a good idea of where they're standing before they go in. So that's something you mandate. We'll just keep nagging you about that because we think it's good. Also, the students have a concern that some classes run their grading 90 to 100%, where if you have 90 points, you have an A. Others are 92 to 100. So the Faculty Committee on Standards and Petitions is looking at that and really trying to do some research for us. So thank you for everything you do for us. I'm really delighted to be here, and I'm happy to take questions if you have any.
Just a reminder, please state your name.
Yes,
and-
Abbas Tawakoli with College of Nursing. I was wondering if you have any more information about the evaluation. There was a focus group looking at how they can change or different format or something. If you have any report and timeline when we are looking, if we are changing anything in our course and teacher evaluation, what time frame we are looking?
I do not have that timeline right now, but I know the committee is working very hard on that. They're also working on language that they would like the provost's office to distribute for this semester, of language that they think might help you encourage students to complete those student evaluation forms. You know, you have a class of 40 and 8 people fill out the student evaluation. I never know what to do with that. So they are really working on that, and they'll be bringing this to the Faculty Senate and also to the office. I think they're looking at different evaluation systems. I think they're also concerned that a student can use their phone to fill out these evaluations. So they're really looking at all of those issues. I'm glad the experts are studying it. Sir.
I think Mark is just going to respond to that question.
That's good. And here's the answer.
Sorry, Mark Minette. I'm a faculty center from English. I'm also the chair of the Instructional Development Committee. We are working on language just for this semester to improve response rates to share out through the provost's office. We're also thinking about longer term fixes, whether there might be policy changes that would help with response rates. On the larger question of, as we are thinking about it, teaching assessment, we'll have a report at the next Faculty Senate meeting in December that I anticipate will be ready to share out at that meeting. And then we'll want to follow up on that with recommendations for potential policy changes or further educational efforts around best practices for the assessment of teaching. We're also working on helping the provost's office select a new provider for course evaluation software as well. So there's a lot going on there. I hope, does that answer?
They're doing a tremendous amount, yeah.
Thanks.
I appreciate that the students are. I appreciate Marco Valtorta, computer science and engineering. I appreciate that the students are can get anxious before finals. I think we all have been anxious before finals. I think it's important for the students to understand that some of the differing standards used to set grades are not arbitrary, but they're based on experience and on the nature of the course. So maybe it would be useful for the provost to disseminate some examples of practices that are used and of what the students have experienced in high schools in the state, for example, to see whether we can target better the students at the beginning of the course in our syllabi if we in fact use a non-standard grading scheme or,
Luckily, we have a committee, the Standards Committee is really looking at this and really trying to sort out what's going on. The expressed statement to us that we referred to the committee was, why is it that some of my friends can get a 90 and receive an A, whereas in other courses, they have 92 points and it takes 92 points to be an A. So I think that's an important issue. I think you're right. Yeah,
Thank you.
sure.
Hi, thanks. I'm Carol Harrison, a senator from History, and I was reading in the news about the comprehensive transfer agreement that apparently campuses across the state have agreed to work towards a comprehensive transfer agreement, and that list did not include USC Columbia, but it did include all the regional campuses, and so I was wondering where USC Columbia fits in that agreement.
This is a very good question. Carol wants to know where we fit in the comprehensive agreements for transfer. I don't know, but one of the things, I just don't know at this point, but we have accepted many, many courses over time in our transfer portal, and they're all listed in the transfer portal. So working out these agreements and making sure that students that coming here from two-year institutions, for example, have clear pathways is really important. I don't know where we are, Carol, at this point. I don't know if we're part of that process or if we're interested. I know we're concerned about transfers, and we talk a lot about transfers, but I'm not sure where we are with that particular issue. And we have a lot of students, as you know. We really seem to be very popular at this point, thanks to the hard work that you do. So I'm perfectly happy to sit down. Anyway, thank you. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, now we'll move on to reports of the faculty committees, beginning with courses and curricula.
Next month's Senate meeting will be the final chance for new courses to be approved for spring program changes to make the fall 24 bulletin, and is needed for several new programs to stay on track for CHE approval. We expect at your next meeting here that there'll be over 120 proposals that we'll be bringing forward. As such, we encourage the senators to look at the report as early as possible when it comes out, and to contact Sharon and I well in advance with any concerns you have so that we can smooth those out. If anything comes up on the floor of the Senate, our committee will strongly push for y'all to stay here until we resolve it so that we don't hold those up next meeting. So all of your fellow senators would appreciate you contacting us early as well, I imagine. As for this month, CNC brings forward 60 proposals from its meeting on October 11th, 2023, including 5 from the College of Hospitality, Retail, and Sports Management, 18 from Engineering and Computing, 30 from the Arnold School of Public Health, 4 for Darla Moore School of Business, 2 from Arts and Sciences, and 1 from Information and Communications.
This is a report from committee, so it does not require a second. Is there any discussion? Okay. Hearing none. All those in favor of approving this slate of new courses, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion passes. That was quick. Okay. Moving along. Faculty Advisory Committee, FAC, is next. Put up the text of you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I want to do that first.
Let's see. This one, right?
Yep.
I'll let you scroll. We'll do it.
Let's make it a little smaller, see if we can get more on the page.
Okay, let me get. I can also see if I can.
That's good enough. Don't make it any smaller.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Most of it's on the first page anyway.
I should mention, sorry, real quick, all these documents are available on the Senate website. If you're on your laptop, you can go to their to the website under the November 1st meeting and look at them yourself. They're all PDFs, I believe, so they should be downloadable.
Yeah, I printed my copy off of the webpage. Afternoon, Faculty Advisory Committee is bringing forth for the vote. It was brought to you last month for your information and to take back to your departments and schools. The proposed change in the faculty council, graduate council, really it's just a change of membership, and the change is up there in the red if you haven't had a chance to read it yet. And let you do your.
Okay, so this is coming from committee, so it does not need a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Yeah, and I'll wait for the microphone to work its way around.
And if I can't answer your question, I do have members of the graduate school who are here to act as the real experts. So yes.
Brett Altschul, physics and astronomy. I just had, I saw an issue with the verbiage there. It says someone is going to be appointed as secretary of the committee ex officio, which doesn't actually make any sense because ex officio means someone is serving on a body because of their position because of some other position they hold. I think that was meant to mean that they were non-voting, which ex officio members often are, but it's not the same thing.
Okay.
And if it is supposed to be non-voting, as addition to the other ex officio member, that should be specified.
Is those who brought the change, is that the intent that the person be non-voting ex officio?
No, just non-voting. It can't be ex officio.
I mean, well, all right, non-voting. Okay. So there would be a non-voting member.
You might need to pass.
Okay. Okay. So would accept this as a.
Yeah,
Are you making it? Let's make it as an amendment.
Yeah, you'll have to move that we make that language change, and you'll need a second.
Yeah, then I moved it to changing that instance of ex officio to non-voting.
To non-voting, okay. Is there a second? Any discussion on the amendment?
Rhonda Sanders, mathematics. A few of the faculty in the math department had concerns that changing to one faculty per college makes...
We have 1 second. We'll need to deal with this amendment first, and then we'll move on to the rest of the motion. Yeah, no problem. Parliamentary procedure is there. So, any discussion on the amendment at hand, which is to change ex officio to non-voting? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, so that amendment passes.
Thank you.
And then now, if you would like to bring up your
Sorry.
separate issue.
So part of the faculty, Rhonda Sanders, mathematics. Part of the faculty in the mathematics department has raised the concern that one faculty per each college makes certain colleges have more weight in the decision and input than their actual weight in graduate education. I understand that the second statement kind of alleviates that fact, but my question is, do you have a statement about how the, I guess, influence actually changes? Does the statement of 400 actually maintain the current balance in the council?
I'm going to rely on my experts on this. He's going to need a microphone.
Yeah. Do we have a second microphone? And maybe a volunteer to hand it around since our IT person needs to stay focused on IT.
Uh-huh.
Again, Murray Mitchell, graduate school. Can you say more about what you mean by maintain the current balance?
So I have a statement that the current graduate council membership shows 5 members from CAS, 1 from music, 1 from CEC, 1 from pharmacy, 1 from medicine, 1 from nursing, 2 from HRSM, 2 from journalism, 1 from public health, 1 from education, 1 from DMSB. The 5 from the College of Arts and Sciences currently come from very diverse units: physical sciences, biology, criminal justice, theater and dance, and earth, ocean, and the environment. But it does sound like College of Arts and Sciences currently has more members on the council. So I'm just wondering how this affects the number versus the size of the college.
The intention has been for the representation to be tied to graduate numbers in programs. And their current membership has typically been an especially challenging feat to get people who will indeed agree to serve on the Graduate Council and participate. So the intention has been to encourage representatives in respective colleges to find members who will be willing and available to actually actively participate with the Graduate Council. That has been the challenge, to find those bodies. So the desire is this will still be representative of the graduate population, not total population of students in each program, but of graduate membership, if you will, numbers of graduate students in programs.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? I think, yeah, we have one. Oh, sorry. We have one over here on the far left, my left, your right.
Mark Minette, English. And sorry, I have kind of a similar question, and maybe you'll say it's asked and answered. But do you know what I mean, using the 400, one extra per 400 metric, what would the makeup of the Graduate Council be if this were passed today? What would the distribution be?
I can't tell you that right now. It will be very similar in terms of numbers, but it will that number changes as enrollments change across time. And the intention was for the flexibility to be representative of that changing population of graduate students. Does that help?
Adela Vrachov, Department of Mathematics. So along the same lines, I guess we could ask maybe for the verbiage to be that the membership will be proportional to enrollments or something along those lines. So I guess to rephrase, I don't know the number 400. Does that mean that if a college has over 800, they get 2 additional members or not?
Yeah, so that's a clarification question. Yeah. Do you or
yes,
FAC have an answer for that?
No, it would not continue to elevate per 400. So you have 1 representative. If you have more than 400, you will have 2 representatives. If you have 16,000, congratulations. I'm happy to revisit getting members.
So I mean, currently the College of Arts and Sciences has the majority, but that would not necessarily be the case anymore under the...
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Did you have an amendment to propose, or you just wanted that clarification? Okay. Any further discussion? I see a hand back here.
So this is, George Cush, Department of Philosophy. It's a question along the same lines, but in terms of what are the background numbers? So for example, is the College of Arts and Sciences, in terms of graduate students, is that 3 times the size of the next larger department in number of people, or 4 times the size, or 5 times the size? So in other words, this does seem to be an effort to spread representation out more. And I think the thrust of the questions has been, or is, how disproportionate is this in terms of the adjustment? Could you give the numbers so we can have a sense of what the implications of this is in representation?
Ann Vale, the Dean of the Graduate School. I don't have those numbers. I apologize. I do have our number of incoming students, and it's fairly proportional, but it does give smaller units one vote. And so if you have 50, 200 students, you're still going to get one vote.
Any further discussion? Do you have a item? Yeah, over here on the left.
I'm Carol Harrison from History. I had a slightly different concern, which I brought up at the last Senate meeting, which is that currently the Graduate Council, 9 of its members are selected by the graduate faculty, and in the revised version, unit deans are responsible for implementing a selection procedure, which strikes me as very vague and which could, of course, just mean deans select representatives, which I gather is more or less by default what we've been doing because, as you say, it's difficult to get people to volunteer. But it seems to me unfortunate to completely abandon the idea that faculty select their representatives on the Graduate Council. This is the body that governs our graduate programs. And so I proposed an amendment that I think, Wayne, you have, that would maintain the principle that faculty choose their representatives.
Hi, Stephen Shapiro. I'm the former chair of the Grad Council, just filling in for today. We actually received an amendment with that language from the last meeting. So I don't know if we're voting on, voting on whether that amendment will be accepted, but I do have it. I got attachment from the, yeah, and we would consider it a friendly amendment and we'll accept it.
Are you moving it?
Yeah, are you, you are moving that we consider this amendment to the current motion, correct, Senator Harrison? Okay. This is the language that was sent ahead of time. Thank you very much for doing that, by the way. I wish everybody would do that. So that you can read the recommended or the language of the amendment. I can. It is also posted on the Senate website. You want to read it out? Yes, and yeah, we do need a second, sorry. Okay, so we have an amendment with a second. Here's the language of the amendment to, as you can see here, to strike the word a selection and replace it with an election. And then to strike the word for and replace it with the phrase to select council members from among. And you can see the rest of the language there. Any discussion on the amendment? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the amendment say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The amendment passes. Now moving back to the amended motion, is there any further discussion on the amended motion?
Thank you. Marco Valtorta, Department of Computer Science and Engineering. I don't have a motion, I don't have a question, I have a comment. This new system has the risk of, introduces the risk of encouraging college-based divisions. So that's just a comment. You know, I wish I had the solution for that, but I don't have one to propose. I just a comment. Thank you.
Mindy Vensky, English. I just have a question of clarification. How did you come up with 400?
We looked for natural breaks in the numbers of students in programs with the hope that all programs would have an opportunity to be represented, but that much larger programs would have an opportunity to have more than one voice. Does that help?
I see a hand up here on my right, your left. Well, actually, your right, Sam, now that you're facing the other way.
Aaron Dicker, English. It's a little disheartening to hear a conversation about numbers and not get to see the numbers. So I will ask a question that was clarified earlier, but I think we do need some more information on why was the decision made to cap the number of potential voters at 2 instead of adding 1 for every 400?
After some discussion with the Committee of Policies and Practices that advises the Graduate Council, the desire was to maintain a manageable number of members on the Graduate Council, and that was sort of how that decision was made.
Any further discussion on the amended motion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of the amended motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed? I believe the ayes have it based on the voice vote. So the motion passes. The amended motion passes.
Okay, let me give a quick update. Thank you. Just want to give you an update where Faculty Advisory Committee is heading. Next item that we hope to be bringing to you at the December meeting, the Committee on
Do you want to ask him to join you?
Yes, Tim Baker's here. So
University Committee on Professional Track Faculty.
I know, I just hit a blank. Professional track faculty is almost completing their final work on their proposal. They are supposed to be sending draft to Faculty Advisory Committee, and we will co-present at the December meeting with the University Committee on Professional Track Faculty taking the lead because, again, they are bringing the expertise to this. It is, from what we have seen so far, it is greatly revised from what you saw last April. So don't be expecting what your memory from 5 or 6 months ago might bring to you. Again, quickly, let me just go through this. So our goal with that is to do December, February. The FAC is looking at the Senate's schedule. There have been lots of complaints that about the June meeting and that faculty's contracts are mid-August to mid-May. We're looking at a revision to that. We're also, while we're doing that, taking in consideration issues that may arise with the academic calendar and religious holidays. So if you, and I am no expert, but if you have, if there's a religious holiday that you think that we need to be cognizant of in the setting the Faculty Senate calendar, then let us know. Again, we don't meet at Christmas time and other things, but other religious calendars or dates that may be that we should be aware of. My daughter teaches in the Richmond City Public Schools. She was telling me a couple of weeks ago the expanded list of holidays that they actually follow. So doesn't make me an expert on all the holidays that we should be aware of. We're also looking at the ratio for the size of Faculty Senate. I've been promised from the Provost Office the latest updated numbers as to how many full-time faculty there actually are per unit at this university. And then the chair has asked us to start looking on establishing a Faculty Senate committee on research. Do you have any questions for us? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next report will be standards and petitions. Oops, there we go.
All right, well, afternoon, everyone. So at the last meeting, we gave notice that there were some revisions to the grade forgiveness policy, and that hopefully we could go ahead and do a vote on that today. So we posted this last month, so everyone had a chance to look at. The bulk of the revisions on here was we just needed to update the verbiage on this. A couple things. The revisions note the differences in grade forgiveness policy at a couple of our branch campuses, Beaufort, Aiken, and Upstate. They allow you to retake the course on campus. All the other campuses, you have to retake the classes here at Columbia or through Palmetto College. And there's also verbiage in there that's been added to clear things up, that any new class that you're taking, or any course that you're taking to make up for grade forgiveness, needs to be in the Columbia current bulletin. So a lot of that was really just housekeeping that needed done. The bigger impact that the revisions are having is with our dual enrollment students. What was happening was some of them they didn't understand policy or were misinformed, and they kind of believed that since they were not fully enrolled students, that whenever they went for enrollment, if they had trouble with a class, they could just say, well, don't transfer that class in, which isn't true. Once they take a class here, it's going to be part of their transcript. But the old policy, the way it was written, only applied to fully enrolled students. So these dual enrollment students, if they did have trouble with a class, they did not have access to grade forgiveness. So they were kind of stuck with what they had. So the new verbiage kind of clears it up so that it will be for all students to be able to come in and have a path for forgiveness for a class. I think, if I remember correctly, the original proponent on this was admissions. Whenever they described it to S&P, we didn't see any downside to it. We all pretty much agreed with it. So I guess now we would open up any questions if anyone had any.
Yeah, this is a motion from a committee to approve these policy changes. Does not need a second. Is there any discussion on the motion?
I got an easy one.
Okay. All right. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay. Is Feng Meng here yet from the bookstore? Excellent. Okay, so we have all the players are in place. Okay. At this time, we're going to have a sort of a combined bookstore committee report, along with a report, or a presentation, I should say, from the Barnes & Noble First Day Complete program. And I believe, yes, we have, are you Jennifer Russell? Excellent. And also joining us is Joe Fortune from, I just call you finance, but I know you have an official division name, who will be here to answer questions as well.
I'm sorry, can I get the name exactly correct?
Sure.
Jennifer Russell, 2 S's, 2 L's. I'm Jennifer Russell, and you are from?
Barnes & Noble.
Okay. And Joe?
Joe Fortune.
Right. Joe, I know you told me, but.
With Business Affairs.
Thank you.
Which one of those?
We are ready to go.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. I apologize.
And I just wanted to say before Jennifer gets started, really just to introduce myself. Again, Joe Fortune with Business Affairs. And just wanted to thank you for giving us time to come to you and share some more information about First Day Complete, which is a course materials program which is grounded in equitable access, affordability, and service. And as I was thinking about this initiative or program and looking back and thinking about my younger self here on the campus, I was like, would I be taking a look at First Day Complete? And the answer was yes. And so I've been spending time going around the campus, talking with students, staff, and faculty about this initiative and how it will benefit students at the university. And so Jennifer's going to provide you a more comprehensive overview of the program and to help give you a sense of what it really is about. And my job, again, on the campus is advocacy, and that's advocacy for South Carolina, advocacy for the students of South Carolina, and for faculty and staff. And so we're right now collecting information so that we can make the best decision for South Carolina, and I'll turn it over to Jennifer.
First, thank you for an opportunity to just have some time on your agenda, a very packed agenda. I will speak quickly because I know we have a limited amount of time, but also want to make sure you have a thorough understanding of what First Day Complete is, where we're seeing the industry moving. I've been with Barnes & Noble for 25 years, started when it was just new book, used books, very simple, and just seeing the evolution of the textbook industry and course material industry. And again, this is just another movement on how it's changing and evolving. So why are we seeing so much growth in what we're calling equitable access and inclusive access? Is because students are foregoing getting their course materials for a variety of reasons. Almost 80% of students either delay purchasing course materials, or 40% reported going without one or more of the required course materials. Sometimes they're forced with a decision, am I going to buy that Spanish book and not get my other 3 books, or am I going to buy those 3 books and forego getting my Spanish book? So we really want to address these things for students to ensure that we're providing them with what they need to be most successful in the classroom. So we survey students. We do national surveys, we do local surveys. We want to understand how can we better improve our services? And again, make sure we're filling our mission to make sure there's student success. What have we heard from students? Probably no surprise here. Textbooks are expensive. I have a college student. I spent $750 on textbooks this past semester. The process of getting textbooks can be a hassle. I heard comments about first-generation students. It can be overwhelming for students to come in and get all the required course materials. What do I need to get? How do I get them? And then not having their course materials can have a negative impact on their outcomes in the classroom. So again, we're working to just really strategize and really how can we come together to find a program that supports all these campus initiatives. And this is where First Day Complete comes in. Again, it's a proven solution that really supports success by ensuring that all students have access to their required course materials on or before the first day of class. Here's the big thing with this. So we know that there's inclusive access programs that are digital only. This includes print. We know that not every faculty maybe is ready to make that move to digital, or what they need to use in the classroom may be that print component or print material. So this program includes print, digital, courseware, those consumable lab books are all included as part of this program. Materials are applied as a single per credit course charge to the student account. Heard a lot about anxiety, not knowing, coming up to the midterms, coming up to finals. Students have a lot of anxiety. We're hearing that about mental health on campuses and how do we help support students. From our surveys, we hear this helps reduce a lot of stress for students. And then flexibility. Again, this includes print material, digital material, and it also provides your students an opportunity to opt out of the program if it is not for them for a particular semester. So they have still a choice to whether they want to stay in the program or if they would like to opt out. Again, research, we want to understand what are we hearing from our students and what are we hearing is 86% said that the program, they were much better prepared. Probably, again, no surprise for anybody in this room. When you have the required course materials that you are requiring for your courses, it is going to help students be prepared and be more successful in the classroom. 83% said that it provided them more affordable materials. We know prices of course materials can range from that $7.95 paperback all the way up to that, I'm going to pick on Spanish or French, $300 bundle that it requires for the students to be successful in that particular class. But even more importantly, 3 years ago, I've been in this role 3 years, the big focus was on affordability. And we have really seen that narrative shift. The top 2 items for students now are convenience and access, with 3 being affordability. So again, we're really just saying this program kind of brings everything together. It also supports retention. So this was an independent study. Some of you may have heard the name Dr. Michael Moore. He wanted to understand the impact in terms of retention and course completion rates for students that participated in an equitable access program and had what they needed versus non-participants. And what his study found is that students were almost 16% more likely to complete the course when they were prepared and participated in an equitable access model. So how does this impact you? And how does this impact faculty? It doesn't. It doesn't change your behavior. We just need your book adoption so we can ensure that students have what they need. You don't have to pick from a certain publisher. You don't have to pick digital. You pick what is going to support your academic mission in the classroom, which is really important. It also aligns with current affordability and open educational resource initiatives on campus. We had an opportunity to meet with focus groups earlier, I guess last month, just to listen to faculty and what's on their minds. We know a lot of faculty have worked really hard to reduce the cost of their materials in their class. This gets factored into the overall per credit price. We evaluate the pricing annually, so as more faculty adopt low cost or no cost materials, it can potentially have an impact on the per credit price. On the flip side, as part of our focus groups, we also heard a faculty member said, wow, I've really been postponing adopting that $150 book because I didn't want it to impact my students. Now I can adopt it because I really feel like that's going to be the best material for my students to be successful. So again, there's the flexibility there. Personalized student communication. We want to ensure that students are making an informed decision for that particular semester. So up front, when we send them the welcome email, they're going to be presented with, Justine, welcome to First Day Complete. Here's the price or the savings that you will have if you stay in the program versus if you opt out of the program. So again, students will, full transparency, make an informed decision if the program is right for them for that semester based on their personalized course schedule and the required course material that you've told has been adopted for that class for their particular course schedule. This also is an enhanced personalized student experience. So as part of the personalized student experience for students, 35 days prior to the start of class, they're going to get a welcome email. It will be with all of their required course materials for their specific classes. The only thing they have to do at that point is to let us know how they want the print material delivered. Any digital material or course is now going to be delivered seamlessly through the learning management system, so students will have access right in the LMS. So how do we determine the price per credit hour? We take your current faculty adoptions, the current mix of print, digital, courseware, consumables to come up with the per credit pricing. So this is a blended price, so which means that a full-time student taking 15 credit hours would now spend $300 for all their required course material for the semester. So again, this is something we evaluate on an annual basis. Currently on your cost of attendance, I went on the website, you're recommending about $1,380 for 2 semesters or $695 per semester for course materials is what the recommended for books and supplies is. So this has been really exciting because over the past 3 years, again, just seeing the program evolve. This was from the Student Government Association. UNC Charlotte launched this program this past fall. Our manager was attending a regular SGA meeting, and they were presenting with just a motion, just saying thank you for bringing this program to Charlotte. It's been very well received, and we're starting just to see this groundswell of positive feedback from students, which has been very exciting. And when I call it a movement, I want to say this program started unofficially, I guess, about 7 years ago. One store in Banner Elk, North Carolina said, we want to think out of the box. How can we support our students? How can we ensure they have everything they need? And this is where it started. And now you're starting to see the growth with any movement, like when rentals first started. How did it start? With a few stores with rentals, and then it evolved and it became the norm. So you can see this is how the program has grown. We now have over 157 stores on the program. There's a mix here, 2-year, 4-year, private, public, every size enrollment. an institution that has been adopted, and we're approaching and we're seeing, again, the rapid growth and many more stores launching for spring as well as fall, next fall. Hopefully I'm within my time allotment.
Right on time.
Okay.
So before we begin discussion, I just want to announce a couple of things. Joining us today also, we have Emmy Thompson, who is president of the student government, to give us the USC student perspective on the program. As I mentioned earlier, we have Feng Meng, who is chair of the Senate Bookstore Committee as well, who presented to you last meeting on this topic and has attended further meetings with Barnes & Noble and the administration. Am I forgetting? And of course, Mr. Fortune's already introduced himself. Am I forgetting anyone? I think those are the main folks. So if you have a question, of course, you can direct it to any of them. I've invited them all here to answer questions. So yeah, I think I saw that hand first.
Yes, Abbas Tawakol with College of Nursing. One thing is this is mostly for undergraduate student, right?
Correct.
And the other thing is about opt-out for a student, because there are a lot of our faculty concerned about those students. I guess it's on a student to opt out, right? The program is basically if a student forget, they're going to pay that fee even they don't use it or use it less, right?
Yeah, no, great question, and we get that a lot. So to get the publisher discounts to provide the pricing, it does have to be an opt-out program. However, we have a marketing toolkit. So we work closely with the campus to ensure that marketing and there's cross-fluency with faculty, with the students, working with SGA to get the message out about a program change such as this. You also have your bookstore team, Sarah, who will still be on boots on the ground. Again, any change, we know there's going to be some time. So typically when we launch a program like this, sometimes we'll see opt-out rates average around 20%. Again, it's something new. It's making sure the communication, that was a lesson we learned when we first launched it. How can we better communicate it? So we have email campaigns, social media campaigns to really socialize the information about the program on your campus. If for some reason, so this goes all the way through add drop, we hear a lot of times students are adding classes, dropping classes. They can opt in and out of the program. So one thing I didn't mention, they can opt out. They can also choose to opt back in all the way through the add drop period. The reason we added that provision is because when we first launched this, I think it was at Campbell University, we had a group of students, again, knee-jerk reaction. I'm going to opt out of the program. They went to that first chemistry class. I'm going to pick on chemistry. The book was $275. They said, wow, we made a mistake. How do we get back into the program? So again, it's about students making informed decisions, having the knowledge and understanding so that they can make the best decision for them.
Mindy Fensky, English. I sent out a questionnaire to the English department. And so I'm just going to represent what the faculty in our department have overwhelmingly said about this program, and thank you for your presentation. So the number one concern is the opt-in out. Based on your answer just now, it seems like it's a negotiation. Our concern is ethical. Right, our concern is ethical, the ethics of pre-enrolling a student into a program. And as you just indicated, the opt-out is at 20% and they have to learn over time, which means functionally, that means they spend $600 a couple of years before they get it. So it's not really, and that's an ethical issue, right? I mean, I get the negotiation question, but the ethics. And quite honestly, it is unconscionable to require a student to have to keep up with all of that, rather than them just saying, I want to opt in. My students in my classes, 100% when I've been describing this program to them, have said, we don't mind. We think this is a great idea if we get to opt into it and not get forced into it. 100% of my students are like, this seems cool, but I got all my textbooks from the library this semester. Or this sounds cool, but all of my stuff is OER this semester, right? So that's the number one concern, and I think that's resonating with people. The second concern is, I'm looking at the data that you just provided. right? So you've got 157 campuses, which represents, to me, probably hundreds of thousands of students.
800,000, just, we're approaching over 800,000 students that are.
That's amazing. Your N on your survey is under 4,000. So the data that you're giving us in terms of the 83% approval rate, et cetera, is coming from 4,000 out of 800,000 students. That is not data that we can make a decision based upon. In addition, the survey that is from New Hampshire is about equitable programs across the board. It is not about this program. And so even if there was a positive association for equity and access based on equity and access programs writ large, that's not about this program. And so until that data actually represents this program, that's a problem. The final concern that we have, or that the faculty in our department had, is a lack of confidence in Barnes & Noble. And that lack of confidence is some people don't have their textbooks yet. They're having problems communicating with management back and forth. I read a series of emails got forwarded to me as a result of a response to the survey. And so there's a lack of faith in Barnes & Noble. So those were the concerns that the English faculty brought to me. I think that's relative, and I think those represent the concerns that we mentioned at the Faculty Senate meeting last month. Thank you.
So just out of respect for time, I know there's a lot of individual, we're going to stay after if there's any specific service level questions or things like that we can address. Andy Schaefer is also the director of stores. He oversees the whole Southeast, has a number of stores. We have a number of stores. I don't know if you want to speak more specifically to some of the yeah.
Please come and use the mic up here and identify yourself and keep your comments brief.
Absolutely. I'm Andy Schaefer, I'm the director of stores for Barnes & Noble. I feel like I'm home. I did my MBA comp presentation on this stage. I worked at the University of South Carolina for almost 10 years and left and moved back to Florida 12 years ago and began working in the field. So a couple things. Let's talk about the opt-in versus opt-out for a moment. We worked with another state, a state that had language on their affordability books regarding opt-in versus opt-out. And we did a lot of work with that state in surveying, pulling data together. This is not like, it's easy to try to bucket this opt-in versus opt-out issue. Like, I always think of like when cell phones were first hitting the market and there were tons of lawsuits, right? It was like the three-way calling charge of $2.99 a month. And when we actually looked at the data of student behavior and what was happening, you had the same number of students in an opt-out model of inclusive or equitable access. You typically would see, especially in a course-by-course basis, anywhere from 2 to 5% of students opt out on average in an inclusive access model. And then you'd have the other 95% that are still in the program. When we tested, and other vendors, this is not just a Barnes & Noble thing, this is an industry thing. When there was testing done in partnership with schools and publishers 4 and 5 years ago, when this was really just starting to hit the marketplace, what was happening is 70% on average were opting in, 5% were opting out, and you had this delta of 25% in the middle, or I'm sorry, 20% in the middle, no, 25% in the middle, that was called no action. And when that group was surveyed, they were mad because when you go to an opt-in model, one thing that Jennifer didn't mention is it puts the ownership heavily on faculty to educate students about the program. They get the lion's share of the questions on the first day of class. There's not as much understanding is when it's launched from orientation forward with new students coming in. And so you see gaps in a lot of classes of that delta of 20%, 25%. And those students are sitting next to their student next to them. So for example, the Carolina Reader that's used for English 101, that's I think $130. So you're going to have students sitting next to each other. One opted in because they learned about the program and they paid $60 for that book. And you're going to have another one sitting next to them that paid the $135 or whatever dollars because they didn't know and they didn't take action before the program. I can just talk anecdotally for a second as well. I've serviced this program for 7 years. My team are all the store managers, the regional managers across the Southeast. Truly, I have never had a single complaint from a parent or student, and nearly 45% of my campuses are fully launched on this program. And that's because if a student comes forward and says, you know, I didn't understand, that team is still there and empowered, and they're going to reverse that and take care of that student. Because we want every student to gain the benefit. And if the student's not going to benefit from the program, they shouldn't be in the program. And so that local autonomy and authority to take care of students, but rarely is that a case. At UNC Charlotte, we had maybe less than 50 exceptions after the add drop period this past fall semester of a student that came forward and said, I didn't quite get it. And that's the first semester. When we first launched FIU at 50,000 students, we had a fairly high opt-out rate of 49%. So the idea that students aren't going to find the opt-out rate as they're learning about the program, trust me, it's everywhere. It's on the information page that we put out there. It's in the communication pathways that are utilized. That opt-out rate today is under 30. I think we're at 31% this year, 3 years later. It's steadily dropped 10% every year. So there's a lot of the decision of it being an opt-out program, but the biggest one, this is all about reducing friction for students. It is hard to get all of your course materials each semester. Most students are going to 2 and 3 different websites and places to figure out, well, how do I log in? How do I do this? Being able to allow students one pathway, giving them a significant discount, and then serving up a great experience is, that's why we hear time and time again and get feedback from student governments throughout the country that this has really been impactful for them.
Before I take another question, I did want to ask Emmy, because I appreciate you coming and joining us and listening to all this boring Senate stuff. Do you want to say anything or make any comments?
I would. I'd like to make a few quick comments.
Do you want to do it here? Or you could do it with a mic if you prefer the sort of rock star mode, whatever you want to do. Okay.
Can y'all hear me if I just fall?
No, yeah, because we have some folks online that need to hear you through the microphone. Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies.
It's EMMIETHOMPSON. Yes, ma'am.
And where are you from?
Lexington, South Carolina.
You're a student group member?
Oh, yes, ma'am. I'm in student government. Sorry, I thought you wanted to know where I was from. Sorry. Yes, ma'am. I serve as a student body president. Awesome. Yeah, I do really appreciate the chance to come here and chat with you all today really quickly. I do think there are a lot of benefits to this program, but we have discussed this pretty heavily in student government. And ultimately, we feel that its costs will outweigh its benefits. And you really said it perfectly. I think the biggest issue we have is that you're automatically opted in. Currently, students face that same thing with the insurance program, and there's a lot of frustration there. We're automatically opted in to the Blue Cross Blue Shield insurance program. A lot of us just forget to opt out. We get so many emails in a day. We already have a lot of information overload and a lot on our plates as students. And so it's just one extra thing to opt out of, and it's super easy to forget that. So I worry students would end up being charged more money than necessary. I know for me and many members of student government, as well as the student body, we don't buy textbooks for all of our classes because we don't need them. So we end up saving more money by just picking the textbooks in the classes that we need them for than we would if we were automatically opted into a program where we'd be buying textbooks across the board. So I just think it gives more independence to the student in terms of choosing what's best for their learning when they're not automatically opted into this kind of program.
Any questions for Emmy before I open questions back up for questions for Barnes and Noble? Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
don't feel obligated to stay if you need to run.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you for
That's
coming. Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, you guys. I just wanted to give her a chance. If she needed to leave, she could have a chance to speak briefly. Okay, back to questions, and then what time do we have, parliamentarian? Because I do. 4:09. Okay, so maybe we'll give this another 5 minutes. Yeah, we'll do about 5 more minutes on this, and then we'll need to move on with the agenda. So.
Really quick.
Yeah, I'm not sure who was next.
I have the mic over here, and then we'll pass it over. Michael Weisenberg,
Oh,
University Libraries. So I want to appreciate everything we've heard from our fellow senators and from student government. And I do think it's important to listen to the students on this, and it's encouraging to know that they've had a chance to voice their concerns here at the Faculty Senate. All I'll say about libraries here is obviously in the libraries we're passionate about accessibility, but we do have some concerns whether or not this is a feasible program that will foster the future of accessibility within academic publishing. So in addition to these broader ethical concerns that we've already heard about, are the long-term effects that this program will have on the adoption of open access and open educational resources and the future of academic publishing writ large. And that's something that we really need to be considering when we're looking at this. Many faculty have worked very hard to incorporate OA and OER into their curricula, and the University Libraries has done much to support this and to support the faculty members here in adopting OER resources. And that equals a savings to students, and it equals a savings to faculty in both time and labor and finance. But that's being underwritten by the university through the library. And so I think it's important for all of us to remember that. Beyond that, I do think it's important to consider whether or not this would have a chilling effect on open access and open educational resources, or if it would have the reverse. And even if it has the reverse, as you said, you're assessing this every single academic year. If we begin to produce more coursework that is using open access and open educational resources, this will, of course, bring the cost down in theory, but we don't actually have any evidence of that yet. And so we really need to consider these options before we move forward with this. And I know we're short on time, and I want to make sure other faculty members get to say something. So thank you.
I really appreciate that question, because that is a concern we hear at many places. We actually see the adoption of low cost and OER often increase between years 1 and 2 of the program. And it's important to mention, this is the only program that takes into account each campus's unique affordability programs that are diverse across faculty, across departments, and we have different levels of work on parts of the libraries on the campuses we serve as well. I will tell you, one of the best things, this came up at College of Charleston over last spring. We launched there this current fall semester. Same question came up. They had a very active OER and librarian committee, and that committee has now shifted to being focused on reducing their per credit hour rate, which is, by the way, $2 a credit hour today, higher than what is proposed here, because again, it's that we look at each campus and the book list and the behavior separately. And so the goal of that committee, my understanding from the provost, is that they want to lower that price down to $20 by 2025. And so we are providing that committee robust reporting each semester to support that effort as they continue their work to drive affordability. And so this program brings all of these very unique, very diverse programs that are across your campus together to have that impact. Part of what Jennifer didn't have time to mention earlier was every year we come back together with senior leadership and with the bookstore committee to share the data driving the price. The goal is to reduce that price, maintain or reduce. I have not had a single in 7 years. We have not had to, even with the inflation that's occurred in the digital side of our business, had to raise the price per credit hour for students. We have seen quite a bit fall over time.
Next question from faculty or comment.
Hanot Soloy, Department of Chemistry. So I have 2 questions. One concerns the question I asked last time, which is, are the graduate students automatically also enrolled in this program? And I just would like a definitive yes or no.
Really quick, is this mic on? Because I'm not, it is, okay.
Right now, we're just looking at undergraduate.
Okay, so this does not involve the graduate students. And the other question that would interest me, since everyone is talking about opt-in, opt-out, how do students opt out? Let's say, how are they informed of the deadlines of the information? And is this do they get an email that can get lost? Do they get a written notification? Or is it run actually through their, let's say, registration forms?
Yeah, the answer is yes. It's in all of those areas, just like the communication where the program is. So it starts with a landing page that's dedicated by your campus for the program that has all the FAQ and how to opt out. It's also communicated in all the pathways that you heard Jennifer talk about. Again, we don't hear feedback that students didn't know how to opt out. Again, at Charlotte, you had over 25% of students opt out in this first semester. And so the idea that students aren't able to opt out, find it, that we're trying to not have it be transparent is just not the case. That is not the feedback we hear at all on the campuses we launch at.
Aaron Dicker, English. So everything that you're sharing about how awesome this program might be is great. However, the only evidence you provided are statistics from 0.5% of the people who are actually participating in the program. You've also only provided anecdotal evidence about what you've experienced, and yet I'm not surprised at all that anyone with a negative experience is not going to go to a director of Barnes & Noble or the bookstore to talk about that negative experience if they're a student. So really my question is, if all these good things could be coming from the program, why haven't we already been seeing these good things in the bookstore we have right now? Because that's not happening.
Yeah, again, I can't speak to the unique situations that may have been prior to this semester. I can tell you that the whole point of this program is to reduce the friction that students face today. I think it's really important to mention, your student government president made a really important point in what she was speaking about. I think we have to assume that you are adopting the course materials as required that you have deemed that students need to be successful in the class. Otherwise, it would be recommended or something you may put on their shelf for their future use, right? I think we can all agree that you're not maliciously adding additional books that a student wouldn't use. The issue today is that there is a ton of friction for students. And you saw the statistic, 80%, and that's not our statistic, that's a national survey done through NACS, a much wider base. 80% are saying that they're foregoing at least one or more materials when they go into the semester. And that's, if as instructors, as professors, you're out there saying you need this to be successful in the classroom, and you have a large proportion of your students trying to struggle through without, that is a barrier. Not to mention when you're talking about the difficulty in procuring digital content that students face today with multiple places, multiple logins, it is a challenge for them. And so the reason why, first of all, it's a fairly new program. While we're 7 years in, the big explosion in the marketplace, which does not only involve us, but the reason is because of the retention aspects of it, the affordability, and the student feedback, that this makes the process significantly easier for them as classes are beginning. When we survey students, when campuses do independent surveys, number one, the reason why they like it saves them time. Number two is convenience. Number three is affordability. This is a difficult process for students. That it is difficult for them to get the material, decide what they need to purchase. This is finally making this process easier for students.
Okay, thank you. We'll do two more comments. I see one person over here.
Hi.
And then I think Liam,
Okay.
you've had your hand up for quite a while as well. Go ahead. Sorry, thank you.
Stephanie Ackerson from Biological Sciences. First, I just wanted to make a comment and then go straight into a question. First of all, biology is one of those courses where, one, we have so many students coming through our department because we have prerequisites for public health, for nursing, for countless other departments. And as a resounding department in our faculty meeting, everyone said absolutely not. I've also spoken to students, and also just to make a note, biology textbooks are some of the most expensive ones out there. And we still do not think this is a good idea because as a department, we have been moving more and more and more to open access materials. Additionally, many of the textbooks that we use in our classrooms are a recommended additional resource, and we only put them in the bookstore to be available for students to use is because many students actually use scholarship money to get their textbooks. So one of the biggest thing is a lot of these are recommended, not actually needed, but we put it in the bookstore because otherwise some of those students on scholarship would not be able to get it. Therefore, my question for this is students that have scholarship for textbook usage, how would that factor in to this program? Do they apply it to this as well?
Yes, if they decide to remain in the program, absolutely. Yeah, there's.
I think that was a simple question. Yeah, straightforward. One more. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, we'll do two more then, because we have one here, and then I know Liam has been patiently waiting over here on the front row for quite a while. Go ahead.
Senator Gunner from the Department of Statistics. You said that one of your the goal of the program is actually to reduce friction faced by students. So if faculty start to select textbooks that are more expensive across campus, does the $20 per credit unit goes up, or are we locked into it going up if that actually occurs?
We have not experienced that in all of our time doing this, that there is a big shift for faculty. We see a little bit of the buffet effect sometimes in the humanities area. Let me add the seventh novel that I might be able to get to. We typically see that drop off in year 2. We see OER hold or grow, and we see a handful of courses that may have been pigeonholed into an affordability program that was not working for them, then look at a different kind of curriculum that may or may not be more expensive. So again, in our 7 years, we have not had an increase in the per credit hour price. Our goal is, in partnership with you, hold or drop that price. That's the crux of the whole program. If that price keeps going up, all of a sudden the program devolves pretty quickly.
Nursing. And my question is procedural, perhaps for Mr. Fortune. How will this decision be made, and who makes the decision whether to go ahead with this or not?
Yeah, that's a contract decision, which I believe Mr. Fortune can speak to.
Yep, thank you for the question. As I said earlier, we were in the process of just gathering information from faculty, students, and staff, and we're going to spend this fall semester really collecting that data, looking at that data, and then if it all lines up correctly, making a recommendation. The decision or timeline that we had proposed, if we are going forward, would be a fall implementation. But again, the decision really is for executive leadership. So after collecting all the information from students, faculty, and staff, it will be up to the executive leadership of the university to decide if we go forward or not.
That would be from the provost or the president, or that's the level the decision would be made? Thank you.
Right, you work for Ed Walton officially, is that correct?
I do. I'm in the
top
Division of
your chain.
Administration and Finance, and
thank you.
Which is led by Mr. Walton.
I'll allow one more in response to the. Okay, well, we'll end with this question. I have to keep us on track, so.
When you're sharing information with faculty, could you please tell us something about the laws of monopoly power on campus and how you'll allow a private company to automatically charge students? So if we're only going with one company without looking for competitive bids or other companies that might allow us to opt in rather than opt out, I'd like to know that, how many other companies you received a bid from, and whether this is just a monopoly and we should look at it that way.
Or our contract for services. So Barnes & Noble is a contract of services with the university, and they have the contract to provide textbooks and course materials to students. So to answer your question directly, until that contract ends, they have first right of refusal.
I can address this from a department of education. This fits. It's a business question. What's the profit margin? Right? So often mechanisms work off of cost sharing, right? So somebody from biological sciences, I'm sorry. James Croker from the Department of Health Services Policy and Management in the Arnold School. My question is on the profit margin. You know, you wouldn't walk into a C-suite meeting without being able to tell us how much money you're going to make off of the project. Opt-in programs, insurance, clickbait, whatever you want to choose, it's all based on the fact that somebody's going to pay for something that they're in fact not going to use. So how much money are you going to make off of it, and how much money is the school going to make off of it, and how much money are the students going to lose?
Let me be clear here. This is the goal is not to have a missed opportunity for a student to get a. The
goal is to make money.
But the premise of what you're saying is based on a student not taking advantage of what they paid for, right? Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about, as classes are beginning, we provide deep reporting to the campuses we serve. A lot of our campuses take that reporting, and part of that is students that have not taken action yet. And they actually build that into their risk algorithm so that they can engage, get those students engaged, And they put that as one of the metrics they're looking at to identify students that may not come to campus or may have come and they have not done what they need to do, right? Correct. Correct. And the goal is to get that to 0. That's our goal. We work.
Yeah, these are all excellent questions. Okay. Yes, and I okay, and let's do this. Let's stop with that question and give him a chance to respond, if that's all right. And then I feel like the tenor of the room is that we have all gathered the information we need to decide whether we support this program or not, without it sort of devolving into a long-range discussion on all of these issues. I mean, perfectly valid issues, I totally agree. But in the interest of getting through the meeting today, we have this question, let's let him respond quickly, and then we'll move on to the next item in the agenda. I think we have enough information as a Senate to make a decision. Okay. Go ahead.
Very simply, this is the whole program, and this isn't what we call it, it's what course materials, the industry is called as equitable access. This is the first program that puts every student at the same starting place, no matter what their resources, what their backgrounds. And just imagine, I mean, I know you have all had students, I had them when I taught here, that did not have the resources to have what they need until week 3, week 4, when they made it through financial aid verification. Those students are at a significant disadvantage. So let's set aside, you know, the mechanics of this for a second. The whole purpose of this is to reduce that friction for all students, but it has the biggest impact on the students that already have the most friction as they arrive on campus. That's the point. That's why we're here. It doesn't matter if this program exists or not. That's our mission that we work to every day, with or without this program, but this truly puts your students on equal footing no matter what.
Okay, that is his, oh, you're welcome. That's his response. You may take it as you see fit. And I would like to thank the Barnes & Noble folks for walking into the line of fire today and enduring a peppering of very, very pointed questions. So thank you. I hope you won't leave here with a poor opinion of our faculty, but I think they asked some very good questions, and I'm glad that we had this discussion. So let's get back to our agenda. There we go. All right. Almost through the committee reports. Wow. Okay. Steering. So the steering committee would like to provide at this meeting just notice that in December we will be presenting a recommended change to the Senate standing rules as concerns the setting of meeting agendas, mainly to clarify how those agendas are set and to revise some of the language. So we'll be posting that language ahead of time before the December meeting for you to look at. I think we actually have it posted. Or did we not? Oh, you didn't post it, and that means I probably didn't post it either. Okay, that was an oversight. I will get it posted because I think we have that language drafted, if I'm not mistaken. But this is just notice that we will have a full discussion on this, what we think is a relatively minor change in December. And I'll make sure we get that on the Senate website. And that leads to my report. So really quickly, we do have a slate of candidates to fill vacancies on 2 committees. So Courses and Curricula Committee have these 2 willing candidates to fill 2 vacancies on that committee. And the Board of Visitors has Audrey Korsgaard has agreed to serve on the Board of Visitors, which is typically often done by the past Senate chair. I have the text to prove it, Audrey. Okay. We currently do not have a nominee for Secretary-elect. I would like to open the floor to nominations for really any of these positions, but especially for Secretary-elect. Are there any nominations for that position? One moment, let's let the mic reach you.
Abbas Tawakkoli with College of Nursing. My understanding, the position is only for tenure track faculty, and that restricted a lot of professional track which we have in College of Nursing may be interested. So they not be able to
Yeah,
serve.
I agree with you, and we have thought about this at the steering committee. It may be something we ask FAC to look at, whether we should change that language in the faculty manual, but I agree. There have been several good candidates that we've been unable to put forward because they're not tenured faculty. And we have another comment here.
Aaron Dicker, English. We actually just heard different things come from both of you. One said that it is a member who is on tenure track. The other comment was that the member must already be tenured.
I think the language is tenured in the faculty
which
manual.
is even more restrictive.
Indeed, yes.
So I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, thank you. No, that is correct. It does say tenured, meaning an associate professor or higher. Okay, are there any nominations? We don't have to vote on these unless we have a contested election, meaning more nominees than we have vacancies. So if there are no further nominees at the adjournment of this meeting, these candidates will fill these vacancies. That's sort of how this works. Okay. Okay. I did post, which I did see just now, the there we go. The most recent version of the document describing the creation of the TTRTF, that's a mouthful, the Teaching Technology Review Task Force. This is a committee created by the provost in consultation with Faculty Senate, mainly the steering committee, as well as NDEV and the IT committee, I should say, we're also heavily involved in this, to review options for a long-term LMS solution. So you all know that we are currently transitioning to Blackboard Ultra Course View for fall 24. That'll be mandatory unless you apply for and obtain a waiver. And however, as part of that process, the provost also agreed to create this committee to look at the long-term choice. Is Blackboard Ultra Course View really the system we want to lock in for going forward beyond the current contract? And so this committee, again, this is on the Senate website. You can read the full charge, but that's the basic gist of what they'll be doing. Here is the current membership of that committee based on its creation. We don't have to vote on this, or we don't vote on this because it's a committee that sits within the provost's office. However, for informational purposes, I wanted to make the full Senate aware of this committee and what they're doing and who is on this committee. Again, this document is on the Senate website if you want to look at that. Columbia campus is represented by voting members from IT and NDEV, as well as various staff members. The system campuses that are impacted by this are also represented, so the three comprehensives. And we have some ex officio members also from Columbia campus, including the chairs of NDEV and IT that will be part of this committee as well. Are there any questions or discussion about this committee? Again, there's no motion and nothing to vote on, but okay. Does the secretary have a report? No. Okay, and I know there's some things I'm supposed to mention that I've already forgotten what they were from steering committee. Maybe we've already mentioned them. Oh, yes. So NDEV is, as Mark mentioned, is going to be with the assistance of the provost office distributing a list of recommendations for how to improve response rates for course evaluations for the fall. So that's be coming out soon. So please be on the lookout for that and take a look at those. Was there anything else, Mark? Oh, yeah. So I sort of mentioned, don't forget about the transition to Ultra Course View. You really should think about getting started on it right now. And those resources are already posted. There's a transition website that has been put together by the university. It's not perfect by any means. And in fact, I think NDEV and IT and the Senate steering have been in discussions about ways we might improve the information on that website to make it more useful. Mark, do you have a comment you wanted to add about that? Okay, so Mark mentioned within about the next week or so, they plan to revise that website based on our recommendations to make it more user-friendly and easier to use. But this again is a mandatory thing that has to be done by fall 24, and I think the process needs to start now if you have courses that you teach in the fall that you need to transition. I can pretty much guarantee you almost all of you are not using Ultra Course View right now. If you have any question in your mind about it, so you need to look at this and see what's involved and get started. Is there anything else? I think that was it. Okay. Does the secretary have a report? Okay, no report. No, thank you. VM at no, thank you. Any old business that we need to Oh, yes, I see a hand up here.
Could you kindly summarize for us what the proposal from steering is going to be, since you didn't have it on online? Just tell us what it is about.
Yeah, I really apologize for forgetting to put that. I didn't send it to Sam to put up. Do you have it, parliamentarian?
I'm seeing if I have it.
Okay.
But probably not.
Do you recall roughly what we were proposing?
So it mostly.
Do you want to come use the mic? Yeah. This is our parliamentarian, Dan Brackman from the law school.
It mostly is designed to bring the standing rule about how the agenda is formed and how the committee reports happen into alignment with our current procedures. Currently, the standing rules say the following committees report, and it doesn't mention some committees like INDEV that came along after it, and it has reports from committees we no longer have.
Yeah.
So one of the major changes is that it allows the chair to sort of set in the agenda, these are the committees that will be reporting in this order. And then we say it has to go into the agenda so that everyone knows what order they're going to be coming in, rather than have this sort of a static list that we would have to amend every time that there is a committee that's created or one disappears. It's just easier to say, here are the committees, the chair will put them in some order and you will be notified. That's the main gist of the change.
Thank you.
It also allows some flexibility for the order to change from meeting to meeting if we have like for example, CNC has over 100 programs to consider for December. Maybe we need to let them go first so that there's adequate time to get through that, right? As an example. Any other questions or any old business? Any new business? See a hand here.
Linda Hazlett, Epidemiology and Biostatistics. Regarding the first day complete discussion and the program, I think it's important that the Faculty Senate vote as to whether we recommend that this program be adopted to the top university officials.
Thank you for that suggestion.
Linda, where are you from? Epidemiology.
Is that?
There could be a resolution
Yeah.
we recommend.
I think the process would be a formal motion for a resolution stating our position. And we would have to, of course, there's a process for creating a resolution that we would have to go through probably in December, correct?
There's a resolution review committee that looks.
Yeah, sorry, I defer to my parliamentarian who is the expert in these matters.
So there is a resolution review committee in the standing rules that you can submit the resolution to, and it will try to sort of clean it up and make it solid. It doesn't have to be followed. In other words, you could offer a motion for a resolution now. Resolutions tend, the best description I've heard of them is a resolution is a motion in fancy dress. All right. And that's when you hear, whereas, resolved, that is what you sort of think of. It doesn't actually have to have the whereases either. But it probably, as long as the decision is not going to be made before the December meeting, probably would be useful to have it in writing so that it could then be circulated to the members with the December agenda, and then people could look at it and maybe, you could ask for comments. It would gel it better than if you just tried to fire it off the cuff now. Does that?
Sorry, Dan, I snuck up behind you.
Yeah.
I mean, as chair, I would prefer to handle it in December just so we do have time. But I mean, I'm not, if you would like to make the motion, I will not stand in your way by any means, but, and I can't, so.
Aaron Dicker, English.
Yes.
A resolution is binding, so we would have it in front of us, we would vote on it. There's nothing that prevents us from having a non-binding example, so I move to straw poll. I move that we vote unofficially, and then in the next meeting, vote officially. But that way, since we have administrators in the room, they get to see what our opinion is.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I feel the tenor, like as I said, the general tenor of the Senate was quite clear based on our questioning, that message was sent. I do think it would be good to have a well-worded resolution that clearly lays out our concerns, maybe like in a bullet point format or something like
It's
that.
not mutually exclusive. We can do both.
No, that's true. That's true. I mean, if you're moving to do so, I can ask for a second. Okay. Any discussion on the motion to, well, actually, could you state your motion again, just so we all understand what you're asking?
Simple straw poll that asks, do you, as a faculty member who represents other faculty members, think that this policy should be adopted for our fall semester? Yes or no?
There's no motion for a straw poll.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have to be a motion to do something.
Yeah. And you could move that the Senate basically put forward
a motion to vote through straw poll. A motion to vote is the.
I'm not sure what that.
Argument.
I think you're just asking, is there a unanimous agreement among the Senate that we are not in favor of the program? I think am I correct? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that's what it sounds like. Maybe you should just move that the Senate unanimously state that we are not in favor of the program. We reject the program. Oh, we still have a motion here that's been seconded, but I want to make sure I understand the motion. Again, the straw poll thing, I'm not aware that that's a real thing in parliamentary procedure, so.
Motion has to be an action. Straw poll wouldn't be binding.
Pass it on to someone else who's going to provide a better one.
Okay, I guess that's allowed to withdraw a motion, yes? Parliamentarian? He can withdraw his motion, yes?
He can withdraw his
Okay, all right, and then we have a new motion here. Well, can you wait one moment for the mic so the people online can also hear?
I would like to move that we advise our university to reject this offer from Barnes & Noble.
Is there a second? Any discussion on the motion? All those, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, the motion passes. Any other new business? Anything for the good of the order? All right, I declare this meeting adjourned.